Yes, he has a merchandise video on his grave station. You want it? You want it? You want me to send it to you?
Oh, whatever.
He's selling mugs.
You can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want.
He's selling mugs. He's selling tumblers. He's selling leggings. On a 5-year-old, a deceased 5-year-old. And you think that's okay?
I'm David Crowley. I'm the writer and director of Gray State, and I'm a veteran. I'm a husband. I'm a father. And the interesting thing about this material, once you delve into it, is that everyone has to act within their own capacity to express this information. So Gray State has been my effort to kind of draw the human narrative out of all this terrifying information that we see all around us. And I think that's been my responsibility as a filmmaker to kind of craft a human story out of this. And I think what I want to definitely tell your listeners is that every time you look at some of these things happening, like, why isn't anyone showing this in a film? I mean, that is what I'm doing. That is what Gray State is.
Welcome to another episode of The Gray Stage. Greg Fernandez Jr. and myself, Dan Hennen. What we're doing today is going over the book, The Gray Stage, written by Greg Fernandez Jr. here. Today we're going to be covering episode number 33, which is chapter 16 in the book. Chapter 16. Now, this is a long chapter. We'll be starting off on the physical book, page 156, if you're following along on the physical book. You also may have the PDF version of that, but we're in the middle of that chapter 16. This is the last chapter of the book. There's a lot of information here. We'll get started on this episode today. What I'll do is start reading, go through a couple paragraphs, and Greg and I will interject if we have any questions or comments. How does that sound, Greg?
Sounds good to me.
So page 156. What I'll do is begin reading here, and as we come up to things, the previous episode we cut off, I've got it on my notes here, Greg, around the middle of page 156.
Okay.
And so what we're doing is covering basically the year 2014 on the timeline is what's going on. The deaths occur around Christmas time in 2014, but we cut off the last episode in February. So we're going through the months to show the kind of the buildup here as to what could have happened here with the Crowley family. Continuing on, it says, on February 2nd, 2014, David explained the plot of the fictional film Gray State. Gray State, a wounded veteran leads the insurgency against a corrupt government after his city is put under martial law, end quote. So that's the Gray State project. That's a good, very concise summary. He goes on to say, quote, the use of force, David Crowley posted on March 7th, 2014, no matter the context, should be a shameful last resort, indicating an utter defeat of intelligent faculty. This is the difference between men and children, and also why our childlike society celebrates violence in its exercise of authority, end quote. Very good. David Crowley, once again, very high IQ, very well-spoken person. And once again, pushes the fact that any kind of violence is a last resort.
Yeah, and this is only months before his bodies are found, if you think about it. A couple months, 6 months later, something like that, maybe 7 months. But still, I felt that was a very important quote to put in there to show David's view on violence, the things that he's putting into this. And then it also shows me when these crimes happened, when this tragedy happened, and they're so quick to blame David, and they go back and they read all the stuff that we're reading here too. The cops, the investigators, they have access to all of this stuff, and they're reading all of this, and still saying David committed a violent act. And it's a very shameful thing, because as you read in this quote here, he's saying it is a shameful last resort. It is part of the reason why I named the book "The Gray Shame." Was that quote right there was part of it. Obviously, the whole case is very shameful. That's another part of it.
But yes, the official story is David murdered his daughter, murdered his wife, and then shot himself in a very violent turn of events. And what David is saying here, that the violence should be a shameful last resort. Now, the folks pushing the official narrative will say, well, David Crowley did use it as a last resort. He didn't know what else to do. He was out of money, bankrupt, and shot everybody because he was despondent. That's how they're going to twist things when you talk to the other side of the aisle. They'll twist it and use the same words back against him as a last resort, and how shameful it is because they're throwing David Crowley under the bus because of what he did. So we've seen a lot of that over the years, Greg, as well. People saying it was a last resort. He was an idiot, and shame on him for doing this awful act, what he did. The next day, David wrote, Sean Stone, yeah, that one, at CC Stone, CS Stone 5. That's Sean Stone. It's Oliver Stone's son. Apparently wants a role in Gray State. So he put that on a quote as well, because we knew they were talking A-list, B-list actors for this film. Sean Stone did say that he wanted a role in the film. I don't know. I don't have any proof, I guess, of that or anything to support that. But these were the networking that David was working on in 2014.
Yeah, and with Sean Stone, it's interesting because, as far as I know, he's never acted in any films or anything like that. And when I first read this, I just thought, okay, he wanted a part. He wanted a speaking role in the Gray State Project. But Dan, let me ask you this. Is it possible when David said Sean Stone wants a role, that could have meant something behind the scenes, a PR role, an associate, I don't know, someone to help him write it? Does it necessarily mean that Sean Stone wanted to be what Danny Mason claims he was, just an actor?
That's a very good point. The word role here could mean many things. Sean Stone obviously has written many books. His father's Oliver Stone. Both of them are well into various conspiracy theories and topics and not afraid to touch such topics like that. And Sean Stone, I believe he probably was interested in doing something with this film. I don't know if it was acting or not, but you bring up a good point. It could have been a financial backer. It could have been an executive producer. It could have been maybe writing a book on it after the series was done or something. I don't know, but he does just leave the word role out there for us to interpret.
Yeah, to let everybody know too. I mean, David is telling everybody here, making this very clear. And this is just a couple months before David gets that Hollywood deal going too. So that's pretty interesting. The other thing that's interesting about this Sean Stone thing is later on, I think maybe a year or two after this, and I don't know if they still have a show, but Jesse Ventura's son and Sean Stone had their own talk show too, right? So they're very close. Jesse Ventura, obviously from Minnesota, and his son is too. And I think I think we've sent out feelers to try to reach out to Jesse Ventura. Obviously, he's really busy. He's in Mexico at the time. I think he was even going. I don't know when that Chris Kyle lawsuit and all that was happening. If that was happening around this same time. But it would be very very interesting to at some point try to get this book or try to get some of this data into the hands of Jesse Ventura. Jesse Ventura loves to read, so it's not that far-fetched to at least get some type of a quote. You get a guy like that on this case, and then you really got something there.
Yeah, he does live in Minnesota here, I think 6 months out of the year, and then down in Mexico the other 6 months.
Right.
He does spend his time down there quite a bit. Continuing on, it says 2 days later, on March 10th, 2014, David was, quote, happily unsubscribing from liberty and conspiracy feeds on Facebook and Twitter. Too much of the backbiting derision they claim to oppose. See you guys. It's been fun. You'll still like Gray State, though. End quote. That's a very good point. What I've noticed, Greg, and you may have also over the years on Facebook, and you start signing up and joining groups on Facebook. When you ever go through to find out to do some editing and start cleaning up your group list, you do find out in a hurry that you've got 100, 300 groups you're signed up for that you can start cleaning house. And many of them, David found, were conspiracy kind of groups, off the wall, wacko, whack job kind of stuff, and removed, unlisted himself, unjoined, left those groups, because you also do get inundated with various notifications when there's new posts and things done. And the notifications eat you up alive in Facebook when you start becoming involved with so many groups. It's all the notifications. You could turn those things off, but it looks like he went in and started cleaning house on some of this stuff, and it really felt good to kind of clean house.
And it's the timing too of when he's doing this. He's not doing this after this Hollywood deal is made. These are a couple months prior to it. And so he's, like you said, it looks like he is cleaning house. Now, this may have also been around the time when he starts having issues, or based on his journal, it looks like he was already having issues with some of these other Gray State goons that he's surrounding himself with. And I wonder if any of them are part, as he's distancing himself from certain people, he's making it very clear here, he's distancing himself from these groups, from liberty, not just conspiracy, but liberty and conspiracy groups. It's a very wide range. It's a very wide term, right? It's very, very vague, but it's very interesting. As you can see, the change. And so when the police later on will try to tell us that David was going into this dark place, he was surrounding himself with quote unquote conspiracies, here you have again more evidence that he's doing something completely different. He is actually removing himself from those conspiracy groups, at least some of them, and from certain people that are conspiracy theorists, it seems like. So to me, this is more proof in his own words here too.
It's interesting when you first join something or start following something, whether it's a crime or a true crime case, or it's a JFK assassination, or it's 9/11 or something. You tend to join as many groups as you can to jump in with both feet and get all your feelers out. And a lot of people, I think David back in the day did that. Once you get and you start reaching that hump where you know what you know, and you know the answer to things that are not theories, then you get back to these groups. And I've done this myself. You start unsubscribing because you notice all of these groups are infiltrated. You can tell by the tone, the posts, the comments, and the regulars that show up in these groups that they are the infiltrators. That's when you start pulling back. I myself have done that 2-3 years ago, started pulling back from some of these cases because there's so much infiltration going on that you don't have time to bicker back and forth on these things. This is what David did. And I call it cleansing house because he noticed that his own group was infiltrated and the snakes were among him. And so that's a very advanced, I think, a thing to do when you're in that conspiracy realm. It's a later stage. You don't do it at the entry level. You don't do it at the intermediate level. You're at the mature end of it, of the life cycle of going through the phase like that. When you know what's right from what's right from wrong, who are the good people, who are not, and who's BSing you, and where the infiltrators are, because believe me, at that point in time, they jump out like a sore thumb. They're right in front of your face. And so he was going through and cleaning this up. And what that means, like he said, is unsubscribing from hundreds of liberty, quote, liberty or death, fuck the NWO pages and Twitter accounts. He was cleaning house because there's a lot of mumbo jumbo out there. For those of us out there, Greg, we know that there's hundreds of pages on just a single topic of the NWO rather than all this. But he's going under and going after the liberty pieces as well. So March 11th, he's starting to pull himself off, sitting at the computer, clicking unsubscribe, over 200 times to cleanse his social media thing. And that's a true fact as far as when you get to that point. Now, the next section, it says the movie script was steadily progressing on March 19th. Today, in place of thousands of Post-it notes, David Crowley wrote on Facebook, pages of scribbles, 30 feet of plot points. I have a 118-page script/outline hybrid that may only be days away from a solid draft. A solid draft number 1. The original Gray State story took 8 months of solid work. This story took less than 2, and it is better in every way, end quote. So this gets in, Greg, as far as the versions that he had and how long it took. His way as an artist, as a creative person, was to do sticky notes all over the place, then move them around, get them in order, and then put them in a written form of a script. And he ended up with a 118-page outline. Then he begins putting in the work of the actual writing. Now we see.
Yeah, and this is only 3 months after he's moved into this home, to 1051 Ramsdale Drive.
2013 to their home in Apple Valley, and this was March. So there's enough
4
stuff
months
to do, and he's plugging away. And this is a very high energy person, a very driven individual, over and above anyone that the normal people come into contact with on a daily basis. Is how focused he was, and how driven. So he had still his housework duties, his being a father, all this stuff going on. At the same time, he's writing a very advanced book as far as from an intellect standpoint.
The script that he's talking about here is the 2014 one that we end up getting? Or what do you think?
We can assume, but we also don't have evidence or anything to support which one. But that's where he started with, and this could be. This says here that it's solid draft 1, and it may have been his final version of what we saw as 4. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, basically. I'm trying to.
It could be what he's talking about, because he does go on and revise it and switch things around, but he's got the foundation done at this point.
Right. So the 2013 script at this point is completely gone. He says if the 2013 script is one he's talking about, the first one took him 8 months, and now he's working on this newer version in 2014 here, and like he says, the story has completely changed basically.
Now he's on.
I'm very curious.
Less than 2 years, and is better. So this is version 2 then? This is draft 1 of version 2.
That's what it sounds like.
Okay. Now, on March 22nd, Comel was reading the first draft of the new Gray State script. Yes, very good. The first draft of the new Gray State script. So that says it right there, according to David's post. So that's already March. He's got it in a draft format. On May 15th, 2014, David, quote, spent a very welcome morning laying the groundwork for another 6 films I've been having ideas for. It's nice to finally be free from Gray State. Boy, howdy.
That's very important there too, right? Because this is more proof that the police had, that the public has, we all have, that shows David was not just consumed with Gray State. He's talking about other ideas, other scripts, other projects. He's not going into this dark place that they want us to think that he's going into and just focusing on Gray State. That is not true. This quote here from May 15th, 2014 shows he's actually ready to move beyond. This is more planning for David's future. That's the way that I read this.
And you're right, 6 films. So another way to put this is very positive thinking person moving forward, thinking of the future, thinking far down the future. This is not a depressed individual that's suicidal, ready to end it all. He's got plans really far in the future. This is 6 films he's talking about that have nothing to do with Gray State, is what it looks like to me. Now on May,
and then we're supposed to believe 7 months later he throws it all. He's done.
He gives up. His arms are thrown up. He's done. So it continues on. It says May 22nd. Now, this is right before Memorial Day of 2014. David Crowley's dream has finally come true. Quote, it just happened. I'm not sure how many details I can divulge at this point, but Gray State will be optioned in the next 2 weeks at a major budget and connected with A-list talent. We are connected with a producer who, above all, wants to preserve the film's pro-liberty ideals. This is all we could have hoped for and more. Thank you all for being our strongest selling point. Let's make a movie, end quote. Huge statement. Greg, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's it right there. And like you said, at this point, this is a green light. David is moving forward. The company is moving forward. Everything looks great. Let's make a movie. And that seems exactly what their plan was. So again, the 2014 script that we have, it makes me, wonder, is this the version? Because I mean, we have two versions of the 2014 script. One seems to me it's more of a full script. The other one actually seems like it's almost a revised version, maybe. It's hard to tell which one of the two 2014 scripts that we have. We have two. We have a 2013 script and two versions of the 2014 script. Of the 2014 scripts, for me, it's really hard to see which one comes first. But I'm guessing that one of those scripts is the basis of what he gave them, or at least a summary of what he gave them. When you spoke with Michael Boggio, I mean, obviously Michael Boggio received some type of a script, right? Of a real script, not just a treatment or a summary,
Yep.
right? He received a full script, and so by this time, from between March, when David is saying this is he almost has the first draft done of a 2014 script done in March, and he hands it off to the mics in May. Things are moving very, very fast.
So, this is May 22nd, so the end of May, he refers to as the next 2 weeks, which puts us into the first week in June. And so it's safe to say by June or by the end of May, he was, like you said, they had a deal in place. They were green lit for moving forward.
Yeah, that's a good point. With the film's quote unquote pro liberty ideals. Now, reading the 2014 script, I guess I could see that. Pro liberty, yeah, it's definitely a pro liberty film. It's like a Red Dawn film, and it's more focused on the Minnesota area, kind of the Twin States area, right? Is that what it's called, the Twin States, Minnesota?
Twin Cities.
Twin Cities, sorry, the Twin Cities area, and so it's kind of there. It's a regional film at this point, is what it looks like.
And what he had thought of in the past, or what he had ran into, is that different houses, different films, producers kind of wanted to scrap that liberty angle and keep the film move forward and pull some of that out. Now he finally ran into a group that says, no, we'll keep it in, and now let's move forward. So that's why he is ecstatic, because he's been trying to pitch this film for so long, the script. Now he finally gets it, and they want to keep it in, and they're going to be connected with some high-profile actors, people, producers, and a major budget. And so let's make a movie. And he thanks everyone. Thank you all for being our strongest selling point. So this is a huge development here heading into Memorial Weekend of 2014.
That's right.
Now on June 30th, that's a whole another month later now, June 30th, posting as the Gray State page on Facebook, David Crowley gave an update on the Gray State movie. Quote, the past month, I've been meeting with some LA-based producers, crew, and other industry contacts, and together we are building the team that will combine our passions and talents and belief in Gray State to optimize its message and reach of its exposure. This has been truly an exhilarating experience. My attorney and I are reviewing the option contract this week. And once that sucker is signed, the whole Gray State thing is going to finally, irretrievably, and monstrously take off for the stratosphere, and in such a way that the message will be preserved and perhaps even continue in sequels, TV series, and video games. Seriously, talk about taking over the mainstream. This has been my life's work for nearly 4 years, and it's extremely gratifying to be backed by such a raging horde of superfans. Thanks for your patience, guys. See you at the premiere. End quote. Now, there's a lot to unpack there, Greg. Where do you want to start?
Yeah. Well, I definitely like the fact that this does include sequels, but it includes a TV series too. I found that pretty fascinating, because later on, that's the final stage of this whole thing, is they end up wanting to turn this into a TV series. So I found that very interesting. So David, in some sense, is kind of letting go, kind of, ready to move beyond this, because it's not like he's going to be the one who is making the video games, making the sequels, making the TV series, et cetera, all this stuff. But he's definitely kind of trying to plant those seeds so that the the mics can take this and really make it bloom and do something very, take it to that next level. Like he says, what does he say? To the stratosphere,
Stratosphere.
monstrously take off for the stratosphere. He has very high hopes for this. That's one of the main things that I got from reading this. But there
Now
is a
he
lot.
says, he does. What I'd like to point out here, Greg, is the truth of this statement. The truth of each of these sentences here. Nothing here is a lie.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one thing I love dealing with the David Crowley quotes, is that he's always on point. He's not leading people down a wrong path, rabbit hole. It says he has been meeting with industry executives, making some contacts, meeting with crew and producers. We have support now and documentation that proves all that is correct. He was meeting in LA. We have that. One thing I'd like to point out for the folks that are very new into this, it does say at the beginning of the sentence that he was posting as the Gray Stage page. So we know David Crowley had rights on Facebook to post comments on behalf of the page or the group called Facebook or the Gray State, the Gray State. So he was posting. Now other people have rights and administrative rights to also make posts as well. But this is him writing this, and we can tell, if anyone doubted it, that this is him on this post. Everything that he says here, we have now been able to back up. The past month, he's been meeting. He did that. He's looking to combine our passions and talents to optimize the message, truly exhilarating. And he also mentions his attorney. Now, Greg, we have also seen those attorney bills that he has received from Lohman Abdo and Abdo that show on the description of those invoices this time frame, and it says spent time reviewing contracts, etc. on the bills for David Crowley. He's telling the truth. They are reviewing things. He's working with his attorneys. And so he says the option is going to be this week. Now, this is the end of June. So he says an option is done in 2 weeks. Now, we know how things slowly go in the terms of attorneys and the legal side of things. Now it's the end of June. He's got this option. It hasn't been reviewed and or signed off on yet. So once again, green light by the mics. Attorneys are in play. They're moving forward, reviewing things. Nowhere here does it say or suggest that it's not to their liking and they may turn it down and cancel it. They're moving forward. It's leaving us with illusion here that there's maybe some small tweaks, but everything else is green lit. Now it's all going to take off, he says. He's going to talk, goes into sequels, TV series, video games. So we know that is all true because those are the things that came up later as far as how this thing could be pitched. He goes on to say that this has been my life's work for nearly 4 years. Now that's a very important statement. It is, and it was his life for 4 years. Now we have to keep in mind, Danny August Mason made the same quote later. We'll see as well. He's put his blood, sweat, and tears into this project for 4 years. And now David's talking about getting a new trustworthy team, cleansing house. And we know in the few months that come up that we're just getting near to now in this chapter is that Danny's not part of that. And that's why we get this anger, aggression, and the two are butting heads. But Danny was with him this whole time, not doing all the writing, not 100% of everything, but was his right-hand man for 4 years, put a lot of time into it.
And this is kind of a slap in the face for some of the other people, if there are other people who are able to post as the Gray State page at this point on June 30th, 2014, because he says we are building a team. So to me, it's like, wow, you're building a team. I thought you already had a team. I thought you had a team of all these people that you've been working with for the last 4 years. Now you're building a team? It's not like we're adding to the team. You know, he says we're building a team. So I'm sure he gets many questions about what exactly do you mean we're building a team?
I've got a comment on that, Greg, and it comes from Minnesota in the region and the whole Minnesota nice concept.
Okay.
People here in the Twin Cities area, in this region, are not very upfront, face-to-face confronting people. They'll leave hints and notes on posts, texts, phone calls, emails, and kind of hope things kind of get figured out by themselves here. This is not an East Coast, West Coast confrontation here. He's leaving this post in a very from a keyboard, his keyboard warrior. He's leaving this post. He knows they're going to read it and they're going to interpret things, but it seems to me like he didn't have a sit down meeting to say, let's get everyone on the same page here. I'm moving forward with this. You guys aren't on it. I'm getting another group. He did it in the form of a post to kind of let everyone figure it out for themselves. Very passive. Now, that's a Minnesota thing, and which only creates more questions than answers, because now the people reading it know that they're targeted. He's making I wouldn't say a vicious statement here, but he's making a very direct statement with this post that he's getting a new team. I'll guarantee you he never sat down and had a meeting with all these guys to let them know we're going in a different direction. He's using this to introduce or to plant the seed that he's going in a different direction. That I was not surprised when I saw that post, because that's very common here in the Midwest as far as dealing with problems, dealing with issues and tackling tough subjects, is to make a post like that. Let them find out and let them interpret it, then wait for the shit to come back. That's a very common thing. Did you find that normal, or did you think that was just a very strange way that he posted that?
I would say up until right now, when you kind of laid that out, which is something that I see that, and I think it's a very good trait for people to have, is to be like that, to be very respectful, not confrontational. California, you can probably tell, is very different. But now that you say that, it does make sense to me. But before I was kind of like, yeah, it's a very odd statement to make, especially when you have other people who can post as that page there.
And so they know now at the same time who posted. It's David.
Right.
And people reading it know who it's directed to or directed at. The fans are reading it thinking, wow, like you said, Greg, what do you mean a new team? I don't get this. Outwardly, this whole group has been seen in a very good light, right? The Gray State group has always been seen in a favorable light. Friends, buddies, guys giving knucks, arms around each other, a bunch of buddies getting together to make a movie. They don't show the things going on in the background. They let a very if this was a relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend kind of a thing, all you would see is the good things, the good posts on Facebook, the anniversaries, the balloons. You know these people on Facebook who have all these sappy posts, and then you find out later their relationship in real life is nothing like that.
Right.
The Gray State group put out a very good image for many years as very positive. They all got along. They're all heading in the right direction. They're all moving in the same motion. Now you start to tell that there's cracks, chinks in the armor here with going along, and that's where I think there were some frustrations too, even with the fans early on. We're saying, what's taking so long? When are we going to do this? So this is a very impactful. Now, David Crowley writing this, I bet it took him 2 or 3 versions, maybe in a Microsoft Word or a text format, to get down exactly what he wanted to say and get it concise and perfect before he pasted it into Facebook and hit post, is what I'm guessing. He didn't just quickly write this. He covers a lot of ground in this one single post, and I think it was edited, tweaked, changed, spelled, changed some grammar, whatever he did before he hit the post button. That's a very David Crowley thing to do. What's your take on that?
That's a great point. That's a great point, because there's very little typos in anything that he ever does. These are mostly complete sentences. Sometimes when he gets a little angry, maybe that may change. But yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's a great point.
He's covering all the bases. He's mentioning the attorney, and he doesn't say the team's attorney or the group's attorney. He says very clearly, my attorney and I are reviewing the stuff.
Yes. That's
so
key.
This is June. Now, this is the end of June, the last day of June. We know there's problems in August. We know maybe something in July, but June, this is the first inkling that, imagine Danny August Mason reading this post. Hey, he's got an attorney. He's getting a new team. What's the dealio? What's happening here? So I think that statement is very concise. He puts a lot of stuff in there, and the fact that he's worked 4 years of his life's work. So he's also doing a little bragging. He's got a humble brag in there. Talks about how his fans are. So there's a lot to unpack in that one comment. And so he got it ready. He got it perfect. He hit post and he walked away, and then the comments started flying in.
Yeah, it would probably be good to go back through his phone records during this time, during this day and the next couple days, and see if there is any, strange activity. Who is he contacting? Are a lot of people contacting him? If there's a rise in the phone data, I guess, there too. But also because it's a digital age, there's Facebook posts, there's his I think it was his Crawls Gmail that he had, David
Yep.
Crawls or something like that. So I mean, there's a lot of other ways people could be contacting him, not just by phone. But I would be very curious to go back through those phone records now that you bring this up and kind of see if there was any did Danny August Mason all of a sudden call him, reach out to him during this time to figure out what was going on? Hey,
It would
what?
be interesting, to see the fallout
Yeah,
because his group consisted of a handful of local Twin Cities, Midwest, Minnesota nice people, and other folks that were slowly integrated and infiltrated into his group that were not from the Midwest. So
mm,
his whole group was made up of a different variety of cats, and so I think they each would have had a different response to this. Very, very awkward. Now, continuing on, keep in mind this is June 30th. Everything's perfect. He's starting to deal with the stress within his group, but everything on the family front is perfect. Next sentence. In July of 2014, Comel's mom is diagnosed with cancer. Now, this is a whole element, Greg, that ties this whole thing into another level. Comel did not want her mom to go through chemotherapy. So now we get June starting to deal with the frustration with the group. July, we got some family dynamics. We'll leave it at that, some dynamics. So July, she finds out there's cancer. After
yeah, and
learning,
there's very very little there. We only got a few more minutes here for this show, but there's very little data there, and just because again with this book, all I wanted to do was just get as many of the facts of the facts that we could without throwing my commentary. That's what the podcast is for us to go back over it and to kind of talk about it, to share our thoughts on it. But for this book, I really wanted to make sure it was almost, especially with this chapter, it's almost just like a timeline of just things that are happening.
it
So
is, and you can see
I had to
things.
bite my tongue on this one.
It really it lays down the path in the order of sequence of events because a lot of this is very good. The next couple of paragraphs here we'll cover and wrap up here, but gets to be very interesting. Now, after learning about David's death, a collaborative timeline was created by David's father, brother, and sister, and then emailed to Detective Sean McKnight by David's brother. According to that timeline, everything was good on July 7th, 2014, which was David's birthday. So we know the mother was diagnosed. We know trouble was starting on June 30th. But as far as the family around the birthday, that is more than likely a true statement leading up to this. From a family perspective, everything was good July 7th, okay? Everything seemed normal at Rania's birthday party on August 10th, 2014. According to David's dad, they thanked me for grilling at Rania's party, Daniel Crowley wrote. And David said, "Love you, Dad," which was strange, I guess. So now we get the party. Now, a question for you, Greg, is do we even know was Daniel Crowley Sr. there? Was he really grilling? Was the dad there? He says he was there, but we know
Mhm.
from factual evidence in the past that some of the stuff that he said is not true, or texts that he has sent were not valid. Do you think that he was actually there in attendance and the
Yes.
brother was grilling? Okay.
Yes, yeah. What I find strange is the only photos. Now, in Eric Nelson's film, I think you may, in some of the videos or something, you may see his father in the background. But what I found is the one photo that I know of that we have from that party that shows David and his siblings. The dad is not in it. It's
Yeah.
David, it's his brother, it's his sister, and David's mom, who has a cast on too. I think she had a
Yeah, on
cast
her
on, if I
wrist.
remember. Yeah, that was pretty odd too there, but it was interesting that David's dad was not part of that photo. Maybe he was taking the photo. I don't know. But as we're going to read here on in our next show, we learn a little bit more about the relationship between David and his father, which for me sucks. It really sucks because I've always had a good relationship with my dad. And with my children, I want to have a good relationship with them too. And it really sucks that it sounds like from what even what David's dad is will say here, and what David has said, that it's not a close relationship. Is that a Minnesota thing too, or?
Well, they're 45 minutes, apart roughly. It could be they came from, they were divorced. The parents got along, it sounds like, but I don't know. He was very close to his mother. His dad worked a lot and was busy and traveling a lot, so I don't know how close. But the comment "Love you, Dad," which was strange, I guess. This we gotta remember now. This was inserted into something that Dan Crowley Jr. submitted to police. So
Right. So we don't know. We
this
don't know
this
if
could
this
be
was.
all BS for what we know.
Yeah.
We do know the party took place on the 10th. Her birthday, I think, was the 6th. They got together on the 10th for the grilling. That was on a Sunday. We know that according to my own timeline that is correct. And according to David's dad, they thanked me for grilling at Ronnie's party. I don't know if that's even true, if they thanked him or not, or if the dad was even there. We
Right.
have to hold all that now in possibility that it may or may not be true.
Yeah. The
Daniel
only.
Crowley was there. Daniel was there, the brother. They were still on good terms there. And something happened in August that blew up, but there was still something that happened on the birthday of July 7th for David that Comel busted Allie on an email by saying, how could this have happened on his birthday, no less? Was that his birthday?
That was her. That was
Oh,
Kamel's.
hers.
Something
Okay.
happened on Kamel's birthday.
Okay, so that was Kamel's,
Between.
which was later. Something was happening. So it was
Yeah.
good, I think, up through into July here. Things were good. August, we know something happened either at the party or something was said at the party. But between the families, it sounds like things were still good on August 10th. But as far as David saying, "Love you, Dad," I don't know why Dan had to insert that comment into what he sent police on a timeline. I can't, it could have been true. Maybe David says it all the time. But the fact that was so strange, I guess, that was his terminology, or that was your comment?
Yeah, that's from the 94 pages. So when they go over in the 94 page police report, reading from the timeline that Dan Jr. sent to the cops, this is what's in there. And it's weird because sometimes he's in the third person,
Yeah.
and sometimes it seems like these are direct quotes from David's dad. A lot of these quotes in here seem like they're coming directly from David's dad. At least they're being quoted as being directly from David's dad.
So was it? They collaborated on the timeline, but who sent it? Dan Jr. was the one who
Dan
went
Jr.
to
did.
email and hit send on the attachment. And I think at
That's
that
my
point,
understanding.
he was able to get into the Word document, add his own stuff, and maybe tweak some of the others. The part about saying "I love you," he may or may not have said that, but Dan had to he inserted the phrase, "I thought that was weird." Has no business being in that timeline for the cops. That's now an opinion. That's now an objective. That's now a narrative that's being inserted, and he's planting a seed that something's wrong. See how he's
Yep.
phrasing that,
Yep.
which was weird. Strange. I thought that fact right there, that he inserted that piece, those words, into something that gave to police, knows he's trying to plant a seed and set the table for the investigation. That's where number one, when I started focusing my attention on Dan Jr. as being part of this and being involved, is little things like that he does throughout the crime scene investigation. Throughout this whole many months of dealing with us and the justice page and everything else, there's things that he does, and things and mannerisms that he makes, and things that he says and does, including this, that he actually gave to police. Like he said, he told police, "I have nothing to do with this movie." Or that was Danny August Mason. But he said that he's going to put together this timeline and send it on out. He's the one who adds. I thought that was very strange. He was also in this famous smiling guys photo. That was Dan Crowley.
That's
So this
true.
is David's own brother. And something between them happens at Comel's birthday, we know. But something in August tears these two apart, and it was irreparable. So something at the party, after the party, in the next 2 weeks after the party, sometime in the month of August, something happens between these two brothers. And so I think that's why Dan takes the takes it upon himself to insert a little message, a narrative that gets sent along with police to the investigators to read. The investigators can read this timeline and then have this little unconscious blip, subconscious blip get inserted into it too, because they found something strange. So once again, it's pointing to something being wrong with David. It's deflecting. And I think that's
There's a distance, right? It's the distance between the family.
Himself and pushing his brother more into it that something's wrong. Something's wrong with him. He wasn't acting right. Later, we get all the phrases of he was skinny and gaunt and he didn't look healthy, and then he wasn't talking to people. So we get this steady stream over the next 3 months before the bodies are found of stuff that the investigators have got to digest all this. And to them, it thinks like, well, maybe he did do all this if all this stuff happened. But the detectives has got to realize that they were being played the entire time as well. Sadly enough, they were being played. Anything else for this episode, Greg?
I think that's a great place to stop here, and yeah, it definitely we'll definitely hear more about the relationship going forward. These are the last months here. We're in August of 2014. The bodies are found about 6 months later. So these are the last month, very important timeline here.
And when we get into the last months as well, we do have the financial records for all these too, from the investigation that took place. We do have the bank accounts and the transactions. And so you can see what's happening. We got the texts, the phone logs. We can see what's happening and communicating on these final months. And then you can put the pieces together yourself of what you think really happened here. But it gets to be very disturbing. Thanks, Greg. I got to run.
Thank you, brother. But, always good to have you here.
For the folks watching this, feel free to leave your comments below and questions for future episodes.
All right, everybody. Till next time.
See ya.
See ya.
I'm David Crowley. I'm the writer and director of Gray State, and I'm a veteran. I'm a husband. I'm a father. And the interesting thing about this material, once you delve into it, is that everyone has to act within their own capacity to express this information. So Gray State has been my effort to kind of draw the human narrative out of all this terrifying information that we see all around us. And I think that's been my responsibility as a filmmaker to kind of craft a human story out of this. And I think what I want to definitely tell your listeners is that every time you look at some of these things happening, like, why isn't anyone showing this in a film? I mean, that is what I'm doing. That is what Gray State is.
Hello, everyone. This is Sophia from the Gray Stage podcast, and I'd like to invite all of our listeners to join the Justice for David Crowley and Family group located on Facebook, where we have almost 4,000 members. In this group, we welcome discussions regarding the case and have all of the documents located in the files section for everyone to review. If you like, you're welcome to visit Greg Fernandez Jr.'s website called The Gray Stage. It's located at thegraystagewordpress.com. You can find his book and all the official documents for this case at his website. Lastly, I'd like to introduce you to Catherine Michelle, who's a part of this podcast. Catherine Michelle has a YouTube channel under her name where she mainly discusses the Crowley case. So please feel free to stop by and give her channel a like and a listen. Until our next podcast, keep seeking the truth and justice for David Crowley and his family.
Hey, what's up everybody? This is Ross from Planet X Filmworks channel on YouTube and the Zodiac Files True Crime series. Check it out, and shout out to Greg and the Gray Stage channel. Their content is amazing.
Murder at 1051 Ramsdale Drive. What happened to David Crowley, his wife, and his daughter? If this was truly a double murder-suicide, why did investigators fail to prove David Crowley guilty? Where is the evidence David Crowley killed his wife and daughter? Where is the evidence David Crowley killed himself? Within 24 hours of finding the bodies of David Kamel and Rania Crowley, the Apple Valley Police Department were treating the incident as a double murder-suicide. Authorities cannot prove David wrote Allahu Akbar in his wife's blood on the living room wall. Authorities cannot prove David wrote I have loved you all with all of my heart on a laptop in the kitchen. Authorities cannot prove David wrote Open the Rise most recent version, submit to Allah now on a notepad in his office bedroom. Authorities cannot prove the dog trapped inside the house ate David's right hand, both of Kamel's hands, and their daughter's right arm, since dog feces tests were never done. Authorities did not know about a bullet that rolled out of a living room carpet until they were notified by the cleaning company, 2 days after the bodies were found. That bullet would later be tied to Rania Crowley. Authorities did not see the bullet hole in the living room ceiling or the bullet in the attic above until they questioned David's friend a month after the bodies were found. Authorities did not find a motive to support their accusations against David Crowley. Authorities did not find David's blood on any of the bullets at the crime scene. Authorities do not know when David, Kamel, and Rania Crowley died. What we know for sure is that David Crowley has not been proven guilty.
Are you interested in the paranormal? Murder mysteries, cryptocurrency, and thought-provoking interviews? Then check out Crypt Rick's I've Been Thinking on YouTube, or every Monday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Studio A at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Welcome to the Crypt.
George Orwell once said that in a time of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. Oh, how those words were only whispered when he first said it, but it's a trumpet blaring through a megaphone today. So are you ready to take a journey down a labyrinth of twists, turns, and dead ends as we seek out Wonderland? Join me every weekend for investigative live streams at twitch.tv/Strange Investigations. Interested in more organized and detailed content about the hard truths of the world? Then check out my content on YouTube by searching out William Rail or Strange Investigations, on Rumble, BitChute, and Odyssey by searching Strange Investigations. Lastly, if quick and easily digestible content is more your speed, you just can't get enough of my content, check out my content on TikTok at Strange Investigations 1.
A simple truth. It really is this simple. Either you believe David Crowley is innocent or you believe he is guilty. If you believe David Crowley is guilty, you are wrong. If you believe David Crowley is innocent, you are right. It really is that simple. A United States Army veteran is dead. His wife and his 5-year-old daughter are dead. A thorough investigation would only conclude with authorities admitting they lacked evidence to support their accusations. If authorities were to admit the case remains unsolved, they would also have to admit that the public may still be in danger. I am not able to solve this case. My interest is in forcing authorities to admit David Crowley is innocent. The reason they refuse to talk about this case is not because they are confident of David's guilt. They lack confidence in their allegations. Their department wishes to move on, but they are only lying to themselves. They must know the simple truth, and they need to publicly admit this. Their credibility depends on it now. The unspoken truth is that David is innocent until proven guilty. Why are authorities running from this simple truth? How long do they think they can run for? You cannot run from God. You cannot run from your nightmares, and you cannot run from the facts. Why would anyone want to? What could possibly motivate someone to try? If you cannot prove David Crowley guilty, then he remains innocent. It's as simple as that. So the resistance we face is disgusting. If David was guilty, the evidence would be right in our faces. If David was guilty, resistance to our questions would not exist. If David was guilty, facts would be evident. There are no facts to prove David guilty. There are only facts which prove David innocent. Hence the resistance to getting justice for David Crowley and family. Who cares? Do the people who closed this case and decided to not speak about it ever again really care? Do the friends who accused David Crowley of being guilty days after his body was found really care? Perhaps they only care about spreading the accusations of David's guilt instead of researching the facts of this case. They don't seem to care about the facts which prove David innocent. Truth is a simple thing. Justice does not die. Facts prove David is innocent.
If you live in the United States and you work in the United States, you fall under our jurisdiction.
Does that mean that everyone in North America is a slave to your company?
I don't work for a company.
You work for the IRS. Does everyone is a slave to the IRS?
I believe that I do have jurisdiction. I believe it is valid. I believe I do have those rights. Yes. Okay, but you can't, by your own admission, answer a question regarding evidence that actually proves that there's jurisdiction. You have faith to answer those questions. So you have faith that you have jurisdiction. You don't have any actual evidence, and you're not qualified to determine if there is evidence to back that assertion up. Correct. Blind faith. That's really impressive when you're talking about other people's property and other people's lives. To have blind faith in a violent, aggressive system.
You don't have a choice. Being productive, they bribe us with our own money. They tax us, and then they take that money and they push it back out. What they hope we don't notice is they take that money from us in the first place.
Without the income tax, America historically became the wealthiest country on earth because it goes back to the benefits of a savings-based economy. We're able to accumulate savings, and you're not forced to turn it over to a governing authority to redistribute as it sees fit.
If you have a business, you're supposed to file as your business expense, your business accounts, nonprofits, everything else. But you as an individual, there's no law stating that you have to file taxes on your income.
Without the income tax, and they're thriving, they're doing fine.
You think it's moral to force people to follow your rules, and you think that's moral. You think it's moral to force people to do what you want and to pay you. And we don't believe it's moral to force people on the threat of... I disagree with the word force. Yeah. I disagree with the word force, but I think it's moral that you should have to pay your taxes, absolutely. So it's moral to force people to pay for services they may or may not want. Yes, it is moral to pay for things that you may or may not want. So by doing things voluntarily and not using aggressive force and asking questions, that to you is immoral. But the opposite of being involuntary, using aggressive force and not questioning, that's moral to you.
One reason why the income tax is so...
Yes, he has a merchandise video on his Great State thing. You want it? You want it? You want me to send it to you?
Oh, whatever.
He's selling
you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want.
He's selling mugs. He's selling tumblers. He's selling leggings. On a 5-year-old, a deceased 5-year-old. And you think that's okay?
Buried Truth, the next book about David Crowley. This will continue on where the Gray Stage book left off. So much to cover, so much new data that came out after the book was published. And we're going to have multiple writers on this who are writing multiple chapters on this, hopefully, covering various aspects of this very important case. I'm very excited about this book, very excited about releasing this so that we can continue to keep this case alive, so that the public will continue to know that there is no evidence, there are no facts, there is nothing that proves David Crowley guilty, period. This book may assume a lot of things that you've already read the first book, that you've already done some research on this particular case. In order for the people that have never heard about this case, that may read this book for the very first time, there will be some summaries in this book and some references back to the first book. But you don't need to necessarily read The Gray Stage to enjoy this book, to like this book, and to get something out of it. This is mostly for researchers. That's my view on it. This is for researchers, for real researchers, for people who really care, and for people that are interested in this case too. For family, for friends, for anyone who is curious about what really happened to this family. Why did the police just assume David was guilty within 24 hours of finding these bodies? And why have they been unable to prove David Crowley guilty? These are some of the questions we're going to continue to ask in this book, on future shows, future projects that we're not ready to name yet. We have multiple researchers looking at this from multiple angles who are all going to give you their view on this case, their thoughts on this case, and I hope to have several more writers join in the fold here very, very soon. I would love to get this out by January 17th, 2023. Hopefully that will be possible. If not, that's okay too. The main thing is to get this out, and so that people have the information that I believe is very crucial to this case, very crucial to helping to reopen this case if it is not already reopened. We're going to look at some very interesting things, including some fake documents. We're going to dig deeper into the Tony Floyd saga, if you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, you soon will. You can also look up the 8-hour video that I did titled The Tony Floyd Saga. And then there's shorter videos related to that particular topic. Tony Floyd. Who is Tony Floyd? What did Tony Floyd do? How did Tony Floyd come into this picture? No, it's not his real name. But he plays a very important role in some of these fake documents, in the Apple Valley Police response to the fake documents, and in also making sure that the public has some knowledge of some very important aspects of this case. This all happened right around the time that Sophia and myself got more documents related to this case. At least 3 or 4 more big documents, including the blacklight document, which is a very big one. You could do a whole book on just that, but the blacklight document really goes over. It's a timeline. It's a pretty good timeline of all of the electronic devices and what the police found, and more importantly, what they didn't find. Guess what they didn't find? They did not find evidence that David Crowley was guilty. You may be asking yourself, well, did they find evidence that he was innocent? Well, perhaps, perhaps not. But the one who makes the accusation needs to be able to back it up. And it's hard for me to blame any people who are not in law enforcement and are not involved in this case when there are people who are in law enforcement who are involved in this case that stated that David Crowley was guilty. We believe is a very key term. Remember that one from Tom Leiden's report? We believe. That's what the Apple Valley Police said. It's we. Not we know. we believe, we think, etc., etc. And the police involved in that report have really never been challenged. And really the police, the Apple Valley Police Department has really never been challenged in a way that Tom Lydon could have challenged them, in a way that Eric Nelson, who made a sloppy-mentary called A Gray State, could have challenged them. The New Yorker article writer Alec Wilkinson could have challenged them. Other people could have challenged them, but didn't. So that just leaves us. So we'll continue to challenge their findings, and hopefully those challenges will one day lead to reopening this very important case. This case is not solved, folks, and this case is not closed. Don't let them tell you otherwise, because it's not. It is ruled exceptionally clear. It is not closed. We're talking about 3 people that were murdered brutally. Some very interesting aspects of this crime scene that I've not seen in any other crime scene that I've looked into personally. Never seen a case like this one. So they tried to bury the truth. We're going to dig it up. We're going to continue to dig up this truth and see where it goes. See what we find. Put your hands deep down into that soil. Look for it. It's there. Careful what you find, because you may not like it. Now, the more that they bury the truth, the more we bring out our shovels and dig it right back up for the public to see. You can only hide it from the public for so long. They will only take so much before they say, okay, yeah, there's something weird here. And it may take some time, but that's okay. So I got time.
Right now, I know that you and Greg and I are working on a book collab in regards to the case, and we're hoping to get that out at the end of the year, hopefully January.
17th, on the anniversary of when their bodies were found, is what Greg was talking about.
So I've been working very hard on that and trying to get these chapters all polished up and trying to keep me from being a procrastinator, because I'm horrible at that. I've been promising these chapters for a year. And I'm like, oh, writing until 3 o'clock in the morning.
I know, I did that too on one of the chapters. Greg sent me, he put it through his program and he sends it back and he goes, well, there's only, some few things, but the program wasn't quite sure on some of the things you were. And then when I read it, I could just tell it was just a dump, right? When I write, I just dump. And then I didn't even go back, because I'm reading it going, this doesn't make any sense at all. It took me almost all day to rewrite that chapter.
The last 3 paragraphs last night, I'm like falling asleep as I'm writing it. And I'm like, if I wait until I get up the next day, I'm not going to do this. I need to get it done. And I send it to him. I don't even know if the email made sense. I need to go back and take a look at it. But I was just like, I just got to get it out. I was so close. And it was like over 20-something pages. So no, go that way.
It's going to be a great book, guys, when it's done. I mean, the chapters that Sophia's writing and Greg is writing. And I mean, I kind of feel like, I I need to step up to the plate better, because these guys are like writing really long chapters and mine are like super short. And I'm like going, uh-oh, maybe I need to add a little bit more. But the difference for me is I don't want to expound too much, because I am also writing a personal book. So these chapters will also be in my book, but I'm expanding and adding more. So it won't be exactly the same thing. So I don't want to duplicate the work, but at the same time, I wanted to make sure in the book that, because Greg's going to get it out way faster than I will ever get mine out. And so I still want it to be enough that people will get the general idea and get the information that we're putting out there, at least for me. But, you know, trust me, Sophia's writing 20 pages. That girl's covering everything.
Yeah, I just want the person to understand exactly what I'm talking about. And with this particular chapter, it's the parallels between the scripts and the crime scene and the documentary, and how there's way too many parallels for it to be a coincidence. And oh, Russell's saying that he's missing half of what we're saying
Oh,
because his internet keep going in and out. Hi, Rick.
Hey, Rick. I'm sorry, Russell. Maybe you can catch it, you know, when you listen to it again. Hint, hint. We get another view that way. I'm shameless today, let me tell you.
So, yeah, the parallels, my notes for that, and the ones that we worked together and created, it's just bullet points and it's very general, but we knew what we were talking about, especially when we recorded it for the video. And now I'm having to go through and make sure I have the actual page number, and I'm writing it out in detail, and then I look at it and it's over 20 pages long, and then I'm adding extra stuff to it because I'm trying to bring the reader into how we started doing this and giving them extra information so that they know exactly what we're talking about. And it's just, I thought, oh, this will be easy. I can get this done because I've already done the majority of the work. No, it's not easy. It's made it 10 times harder.
Well, yeah, it's like when we just recently did the video on the Blacklight Report. There is so much more we still have to cover on that. It's insane how much information is in there, and I had no idea. I know Sophia had taken a really good long look at it, and she'd been talking about it off and on for a long time. But when I finally started putting together the presentation to do the Blacklight Report, I was like, oh my goodness, you're not kidding. And that thing is just loaded with information. And what I walked away from when I got done, you know, typing up the spreadsheet and getting it all together, is I was really shocked, because we know that the narrative is David was going into a deep depression. He was sliding in, he was withdrawing, he was doing this, he was doing that. But you see none of that in his computer work and in his computer searches. And, you know, you compare that with the notes he was writing, and everything he was doing was searches for Gray State, the rise. There was no deep, dark dive. There was no falling into depression. He and Kamel were living their everyday lives, and that surprised me.
I don't think it was just the rise, though. I think it was also for Gray State, because as I was doing the bullet points yesterday for the 2014 script, when I got nearer to the end and I was reading the script, there was a lot of the stuff, like especially the Middle East, that was being mentioned in the 2014 script. So he very possibly could have been writing another episode or something. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I had to move her out of the way.
Yeah, that's very true. But I know some people were pointing to like his searches on Stalin and the murders, and then there was the music, and then on his notes, which I'm going to be doing, well, not me, Sophie and I are doing, I'm dragging her into this when she gets done. But we're going to be doing a follow-up video because I found in his notes where it shows where he has a list of these items, and then he scratches off the Stalin executions and then something else, which were part of those searches on the blacklight. So we're going to show you his notes, and that was all that those particular things were the rise, but there were other things like Sophia was saying, it was Gray State, the movie, or chapters for it. So, you know, I saw nothing, and there's nothing that shows him, you know, going into this depression that everybody says he was. It's not there at all. And Crypt Rick, I like that. Crypt Rick wrote, I wrote 1 page. He is innocent. Done. It's okay. We'll add that
Short,
chapter to the
simple,
book.
to the point, you know, just.
Hi, Inside the Cave. Thanks for joining. And yeah, so what else did you want to add?
I'm trying to think.
Okay, well,
there's so much stuff, but you know, a lot of the stuff I don't want to come out and show our hand yet, because some of it is good stuff.
Yeah, and like she said, I mean, we're just waiting for an attorney to respond and say that they'll help, because I'm telling you, we have found things that, like I said, when I wrote to one of the state representatives, and you know, and then I contacted somebody else who used to do investigations into this, but they don't anymore, so they can't help us. But they did look at what I had and what I found, and these people's response is, get an attorney. So that, you know, it's like all of a sudden it's like such hope. It's like this renewed faith now that maybe somehow, some way, we'll be able to get David's name cleared and get these people to at least reopen this case. That's the least they can do. You know, for example, when we're looking at that blacklight report, and it states that the last time the root directory on the laptop was accessed was January 14th, but it was late at night, almost midnight. So the 14th to the 15th, and the bodies were found on the 17th. And accessing a root drive is a manual thing. You have to go in and type directory, or excuse me, I hope I didn't make too much noise on the microphone, but you have to type, you know, dir and do all this stuff either in your DOS prompt, or you have to physically go into that laptop to access the root directory. It's not like it went into sleep mode, somehow it got bumped or whatever, or just automatically decides to do an update because it's running. No. And this is something the police knew. They had it. They've known. So who accessed that root directory on January 14th, almost 15th, 2 days before the bodies were found? It's like, that's super, super huge. Super huge.
Yeah, and we ruled out paleo. I mean, there's only so much that dog can do.
You know, he doesn't have opposable thumbs. He can't type on the laptop.
Yeah, but it was also up on the island too. I mean, hitting the computer, turning it back on, I don't think that was a possibility for him.
Correct.
So, you know, and we know that the police were in that house on that day. Supposedly nobody else was in that
on
house.
the 15th, there should have been nobody in there. The bodies weren't found until the 17th. So especially, I think, if I remember, so please don't quote me, but I'm trying to remember what Sophia told me. So this is on me for not remembering it right, but I think it was somewhere around like 11:59 or 10:59 or something like that. It was really close to midnight when this happened on the 14th. So it was the 14th, almost the 15th. And also another thing to note that states on the blacklight report is that it was set for auto login. And so that meant everything was saved. All you had to do was just click, log in, and it would pop in. So any Tom, Dick, or Harry who had, happened to have been by there could have logged into the system.
David had received several calls around that time. I'll have to
That's
see
right.
if it
That's right.
I'll have to see if it correlates with the blacklight report and the cell phone records. That would be very interesting. So let me write that note.
Yeah, there's so much. It's like when you first look or think or, talk to anybody about this case, you think like, oh, well, it's okay, it's cut and dry. There's a 400-page report, which really is nothing. It's not that long, a 500-page report. Well, 488 pages is the most we've received. You're like, okay, that's really nothing. But when you start looking at each individual report and then how this one will support this one and how this one gives you information, then you compare it to that one, and then all of a sudden it's like this wealth of information just starts flowing, and then you're like, how did they miss this? I mean, we're quote unquote amateurs, right? We're just doing this because we truly believe in the innocence of this man, and we see it. So how could these professionals not see it? Was that you or your cat?
No, it was me. I shifted position and it just flopped over. Trying to figure out what I could do to keep it from ever doing that, but I don't know. I need to get a better setup. I'm working on it. There. Let's see what else. Darn it. We know that the black light report basically showed that he wasn't spiraling into darkness. He wasn't searching occult satanic stuff or anything like that the narrative had stated. You couldn't tell if he was depressed by his searches. It really just showed that he was doing research, and that was basically it. And I mean, he's doing research. I'm assuming it's for the rise that he's about to release on the first of the year. And then it's very possible he could have been writing the second part or the next episode even, or going back and polishing up the first one. And if this man had been thinking, just screw it, I'm just going to go kill myself and my family, why is he doing that? Why is he working on the documentary and the script? I don't understand. It's like wasted effort. Rick says,
what Rick just said?
I stumbled on a channel here last night called Historic Research, who did a video on this case. Have you seen it? No, I haven't seen it. But I'll take a screenshot of that and I'll go check it out later.
No,
Thank you, Rick.
Yeah, thanks. It's everybody and anybody who's going to do any kind of video on this case. It's like, please, let's keep getting this out there. Oh, so from 7 years ago, but hey, that's still good. Maybe we could, if there's still a viable channel, maybe they might be willing to revisit it.
Absolutely. As you were talking about the black light report and how they missed what did you call it? The root file?
Mm-hmm. The access, yes, the root file
The
was
access. And how they possibly could have missed that. I just have to wonder, is it some type of a cover-up? Is it some type of corruption that's going on in the case? A lot of people in the past have said police departments don't function that way. This is only on TV that you see stuff like this happening. But in reality, there's been numerous documentaries put out where corruption in small towns, corruption in certain parts of the country is very high when it comes to police departments, sheriff's departments, and even state police. It is an ongoing situation.
You know, when the Crowley family was found, you had all of them jumping on saying, oh, he'd gone crazy, he would lost his mind, he was super depressed, and he's doing this, and he's smoking pot, and we were getting high and drinking absinthe, blah, blah. I mean, same thing. David's toxicology report and his internet searches and all of his activities show it was all a complete lie. Kylie, you have Sammy going on the record to, you know, interviews and stuff and saying that she witnessed Kylie being drunk and she couldn't walk and couldn't, so she was going to refuse to drive home with her and all this other stuff. Kylie's toxicology report comes back and it's just a tiny bit of pot in her system. So not only was David's so-called friends lying, but now the Sammy girl, for a lack of a better term, she lied about the condition of Kylie at that party just before she supposedly was getting ready to leave. Now, what we don't know is, was it really Kylie that sent the text to her mom, or had something happened to her earlier? We don't know. Right now, we know nothing because we can't trust a thing out of anybody's mouth.
I got dinged by Facebook saying that my post for this live was spam.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding you. They've restricted my account because of it.
What?
Yeah. Let me read it to you. It says, the author of the post, me, and the people who manage the Justice for David Crowley family can see this post. We have these standards to prevent things like false advertising, fraud, and security breaches. Your content goes against our community standards. Again, your account has been restricted or disabled.
Well, you know, Greg or somebody can I don't know, is there, that is ridiculous.
It was reported as spam.
Somebody reported you then. Okay,
Yeah.
so we can probably guess who that was.
Yeah.
Geez, don't you people have something better to do? And no, we're not going to even name your name. Get lost, go away. I'm sorry, but maybe there's, if you can appeal it and we can let them know, all they have to do is check and see that we are here.
I did send it to
Got
Greg.
that right, Rick.
It's
I'm
just
sorry.
harassment at this point.
Yes. You know, I see a lot of similarities to this poor girl and then David Crowley's family. The cases, you know, with the way that the police are not, they're finding a conclusion that's convenient, so they either don't have to dig in and find the answers, or they're covering something up. It's the same way with the Crowley case. They rushed to a conclusion, and now this poor man is considered a domestic abuser. People slander his name all over the place, and there's the evidence itself proves he's innocent. Just like the evidence with Kylie, her autopsy report proves she wasn't drunk, proves she wasn't stoned off her butt. She was just a young girl trying to get home. What happened?
Correct. And when she first disappeared, people basically had not stated that she was intoxicated. They hadn't stated that she had smoked pot or anything like that. They assumed that she had been abducted. And so for days, they were looking for her up until they found her in the reservoir. They were looking for her and saying that she was abducted. And they never.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I'm going to block this user.
Yeah.
how do I now? Then I need to get rid of their. Okay, so how do I get rid of their stuff?
I don't know. I don't know. I just had it removed.
Yeah, I was trying to remove it. It didn't. It don't. For me, it only gave me block user or put user in timeout. So did you get rid of it all? There, all of those?
I'm not sure.
Okay, I'm looking, and I think so. I'm going to delete. No, I hid them. So okay. Jeez. I can't stand people who do stupid stuff like that. Get out of the chat room.
Yeah. Well, these are just bots. They're
Oh, okay.
sent to your channel, you know. So it's like it's done on purpose. But you know, we're kind of under attack. My stuff gets reported as spam. Catherine gets these weird bots in our group or our group chat. It's interesting. We must be on the right track.
Okay, you asked for it, Deb. Now you got it. Does she have to
Come
accept?
on.
I just made her mod. Does she have to
No,
accept?
she just has to make a comment.
Oh, okay.
Come on, Hot Deb, make a comment. Get your little wrench. So, anyway, we're just.
Yeah, so it says, okay. I'm still waiting to see her as a moderator because it says
Yeah,
remove
she is.
moderator. Oh, okay. I'm seeing. I just had mine has to catch up.
She's got her wrench now.
You're welcome.
So, I mean, at first they just thought that she was abducted, and then once that kind of went by the wayside, they were saying, "Oh, well, she was too inebriated to drink. I mean, too inebriated to drive." I'm so sorry. I'm like a little frazzled now by everything, and it's like, well, she was too inebriated to drive. Why did you let her drive?
Yes.
I mean, everybody failed her when it came to Kylie. It's like her friends failed her. Her mother failed her. This child was 16 years old. She just got her car in July. She did not even have a driver's license. It was a learner's permit. She wasn't supposed to be out that late. She wasn't supposed to be driving other people in her car who weren't adults. She wasn't supposed to be drinking or smoking pot or whatever.
Which she
If
wasn't.
that's
Her talk
yeah,
shows it. Yeah.
but the official narrative says that she was. So gotta kind of add that in.
And
I
that,
mean,
yeah, and see, that's part of our discussion about this is because they are saying this, the news is saying this, but the autopsy report plainly says that it is due to decomposition, not to drinking. But yet, that's okay. They're going to ignore that, like they do in the Crowley case.
and a really interesting fact is THC shows up in Kylie's talk screen, but it doesn't show up in David's.
Nope. And supposedly David
And
was this huge pot smoker. Oh, look, he has a bong. He was cleaning it.
mhm.
And his screen is.
And Kylie was deceased longer than David was.
Yep.
So kind of rules that one in our favor. Because that's what we've been saying all along. And now we have the proof of it.
Yeah.
And the same type of test that was done for David was done for Kylie.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And the one thing I do have to say, I did appreciate, because I watched that interview with Duty Ron the other night. You had suggested. I did log off. I logged off soon, but I do know that not Duty Ron, but the other gentleman. I think he worked in the medical field. I can't remember what he did.
Ed?
It could have been Ed. Yeah.
Is it his co-host?
Yes, because he was making the comment that, He goes, even though you don't see everything that's tested, he said it's a very comprehensive test that they run when they do these autopsy reports. So all these yahoos that keep saying that they didn't do this for David and that wasn't run, yes, it was. Just because it's not written in that report you're looking at, they were run. David was not on any drugs. He wasn't on any shrooms. He wasn't smoking pot. He wasn't drinking alcohol. Same thing with Kylie. She was not drunk and she was not high off her hiney.
The type of test that they ran for David was called amino acid, not with an A, with an I. Immuno acid. I know that a certain somebody has always said that I said immuno with an A. Okay, I have really bad allergies. It might sound like I said it with an A, but it's with an I. So,
Well,
you
you
know,
know, and it's also just your, believe it or not, it's your accent. It's how you talk. And if people are going to try to, you know, twist your words because of how you speak and how your accent is, I ignore them.
well, I mean, the thing is if they're just going off what I say and not actually looking at the report that I'm quoting, that's on them, not me. So,
Right. Yeah, because
yeah.
so many times, I mean, even professionals can mispronounce a word, or your brain gets going so fast, you say something incorrect, but it's not what you mean, but it's what comes out.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean anything. Follow the reports. And you have said that, I don't know how, you do it all the time. Don't listen to me, read the report.
Yeah, and it's right there in his autopsy report. It's right next to the tox screen, exactly what type of tox screen that they ran. And so, and it's the same thing with the Kyler Rodney case. They did that. They also sent it off to Chicago to have a more in-depth tox screen done. And so, anyway, but
Well,
what
we've been
else do
on
you?
here for what, like a little over an hour now. Did you want to
Mhm.
go ahead and cut this short and we'll just pick it up next time?
Sure, that's fine with me.
Does anybody have any other questions before we go ahead and log off? Or any other comments you want to throw out there? But I do want to say thank you to everybody. Thanks to Deb and Russell and Rick. And let's see, there were several people at the beginning. I think they have since dropped off. Inside the Cave, I think, was here. And there was, I'm trying to go back to see.
Nikki.
Yes, Nikki was here. So thank you all. Yeah, I can't even see your names anymore. They don't show me on the feed. But for everyone who's stuck in here and stuck with us the whole time, thank you for being here. Hopefully we'll be able to do this again, since with Sophia's help, I figured out how to go live. And yeah, thanks, Deb. I hope you get some rest, Russell. Any last words, Sophia?
No, if anybody who's listening has some questions in regards to the information that I have for either case, I'm more than welcome to send it to you. You can reach me on Facebook, or you could reach me through email. I can I can give you that information, and you can put
Well,
it in
why
the
don't you, in the
description.
comments section, top it, and I'll type it in there, and then I'll pin it, so it'll be up there for
Okay.
everybody. It'll be the first comment people see. So yeah, and just so everybody knows, Sophie and I plan on doing a lot more coverage on the Kylie Rodney. And I know it may seem like I'm late to the ball game, but I'm not. I did this on purpose. I didn't touch it early on purpose, just because there was nothing to go on. And everything was speculation, and I don't like speculation. I want to see the reports, and I'll go from there. But now, and also, I believe the police said that they would be done with their investigation in November. So once they decide that they are finished with everything, we're going to go ahead and do FOIAs at that point. I believe right now it would just be moot, because they're not done. It's still considered open, and they'll be denied. But yeah, we are going to cover the Kylie case more, just because this little girl, she's just a little girl, and she's been done a huge injustice, and it's not okay.
Yeah. I want people to understand that there's so much going on in regards to both these cases. And even though Catherine and I might be quiet for a while, it doesn't mean that we have stopped looking into the David Crowley case. We are always in contact and discussing this case. It just is not in public. And we are always working on this case. And so if there's something that you would like for us to work on or focus on or just even look at, we're happy to do that. Just give us some suggestions and we'll try to follow your lead on that. And I think that we can also work on other things too, like the Kylie Rodney case, because this poor girl, I mean, between her community, her family, her friends, she needs some justice. And I truly believe that she was not alive when she went into the lake. And I cannot turn my back on her at this point. She needs somebody to be speaking for her. No matter how many strikes we get,
Right.
She needs somebody to speak for her at this point. Because, I mean, she had such a promising future. And anyway, thank you, everybody. I appreciate you listening to us today. And thank you, Catherine.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for helping me get this up and going so we could do it live today. We'll have to do more lives now. Now that I know what I'm doing, and I did it I did it with you, but Greg wasn't here to hold my hand. So now
You did great.
So now that we know we can do this, it's like, yes, we'll do more lives. So yeah, thank you, Russell. Thanks, Deb. Thanks, Rick. Thanks, Nikki, and Inside the Cave.
And,
thank you,
yeah.
everybody, for being here, and those who didn't make yourselves known, but you're here listening anyway. Thank you for being here. And we look forward to talking to you guys next time. Have a good night.
Okay. Have a good night.
Yes, he has a merchandise video on his Grid State. You want it? You want it? You want me to send it to you?
Oh, whatever.
He's selling
You can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want.
He's selling mugs. He's selling tumblers. He's selling leggings. On a 5-year-old, a deceased 5-year-old, and you think that's okay?
And remind them about the book, and so they know what to look forward to.
In January, we hope to be having a book collaboration with Catherine, Greg, Dan, artwork from Will, which I'm excited to see what you come up with, Will. And
lots of stuff.
We're hoping to have that come out. Greg is self-publishing, so right now he's editing all of our chapters. He's actually very good at it, so his writing prompts have been very helpful. And what else? Just, there's some things that I have discovered while writing the chapters, but I don't know if I really want to go into it because it's going into the book. So I'm finding it hard to talk about it.
Yeah, and I see Greg is in the chat. Greg, you're supposed to be on the panel with us.
Yeah, Greg.
It's like, come on, dude.
Come on, Hot Greg.
I know.
Your fans are waiting for you. I'm just saying hello to the chat right now. Okay. It's hard to do a couple things at once.
And
So anyway, yeah, just been working on all that stuff. How about you, Catherine? Let's put you in the hot seat.
well, actually, since I'm the host, I'm going to put William in the hot seat.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, William.
Well, I mean, as I was saying earlier, I mean, David, he's been proven innocent countless times over now. We just don't know who did it. It's really what it comes down to. There's still a few things that are still being speculated when it comes to how he was killed. I would say at least parts of it. Time frame, things like that. But it's kind of tricky. But at the same time, it was impossible for him to have done it. It was impossible for Kamel to have committed it, and obviously it was absolutely impossible for Rania to do it. So who did it?
Right. I know, and
At
it's
this
like
point,
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
sorry about that, Catherine. At this point, I really don't think it's important to find out who did it. I think just us focusing on what proves him innocent is more important, because, I mean, what are we going to be able to do? We can't do a citizen's arrest.
I know, too bad, boy. I would love to.
I honestly don't even want to deal with the people who did it. So,
Well,
I mean,
end of
if
the
we
day,
could,
I mean, it's proven him innocent. I mean, we've done that so many times over that it's ridiculous. But find out who did it, and I mean, I'm sure most of us have got our own sneaking suspicions on who did it. The people involved, things like that. But it's really finding out what, basically if we're able to get the information to law enforcement, what are they going to be able to do about it? And they still can do something about it. They're just choosing not to. So at that point, it's just hoping that it gets ramped up to something bigger. And then those law enforcement officers that were involved on basically not actually solving the case, something happens to them as well. And I seriously hope something happens to them. This is ridiculous. I'm not saying it's bad, but something like they lose their jobs, for instance. That would be fantastic, because they shouldn't be a police officer if they're not going to be able to do their job.
Right. And, for me too, it was like when I was going through that blacklight report, and right there on one of the very first pages, I don't remember if it was like page 2 or 3 or whatever, but when it tells you that the root drive was accessed on January 14th, and David's lying on the floor with Kamel, it's not them. So you're like going, what is it going to take for these police officers to go, okay, yeah, we rushed to judgment because, we took the easy way out. I swear that's what they did. They were lazy. They took the easy way out and just, they decided a scenario. Okay, this is me speculating, okay? And I'm allowed to have an opinion for those who want to disagree. They came in. They didn't want to really do the work. It was going to be too hard to figure out who did it. It was a mess. So they're just like, well, okay, he had to have done it. So they looked for things to fit their scenario. But as the evidence is coming in and the evidence doesn't match up what they're saying, you would think they would backtrack from that, but they didn't. They just dug their heels in deeper and just went further and further with their thoughts and their ideas.
I think it's pretty accurate. Oh, sorry.
No, personally, I don't think the case is closed anymore.
I don't think it is either.
I'll put that out there. I don't think it's closed. I think that's the actual reason why we're not getting anything else. I went back through, I read that last email that I got from the city attorney in detail because I actually wrote about it. I was looking up certain statutes and everything, and the way that she listed the statutes in order, and I do not believe that this case is closed anymore. I think that it's actually opened.
100%.
From the information that Catherine and I and other people have sent off, I do believe that they have finally done it.
I think that's pretty accurate. Also, on top of that, just to add to it, I think because people were looking for specific things, that were overlooked or weren't really looked into a whole lot or at all in some cases. I think that's kind of spurred, okay, well, wait, these average Joe people, right? These just people just behind their computers and all this, that aren't even here in Minnesota. They're asking for these things. So obviously they picked apart the case better than even the police did. If they're picking apart the case better than the police did, what do they got? Let's follow up these leads, what they're looking at here. And oh, wait, there seems to be some things here. So, I'm sure, that's the thing. I'm also pretty sure that some of our videos at least have been watched by them. I don't know for sure who, but I would hopefully, I'm hoping that's the case, is if it's opened again, which it seems to be. I was going to say the same thing about that letter. It's like, yeah, that does look like it's open. It kind of says it anyways. But just if the case is open again, this explains everything. Why they're not handing anything out. Why they're going forward with the whole, okay, we're not handing anything out anymore. They're going to just kind of be quiet about this. Why a lot of these guys have also gotten kind of quiet too, I've noticed on social media.
And, their reasoning for why they weren't going to hand out any more information was because if in the future, if a perpetrator is caught, they need that stuff that they have held on to for the case. I mean, she states it right there in the email. And, and like I said, the statutes that she used, it states it in there too. She's using homicide now. She's not using murder-suicide. And she's talking about those who either did it or helped those who did it. So they have broadened the scope. They're not just looking for suspects. They're looking for accomplices too.
Right. So much for Ken Mains, right?
Oh, yeah.
World's greatest detective, Ken Mains.
Don't get me started on that waste of oxygen.
Right. But the thing I noticed also is like one of the typical people who was making a lot of threats towards people was Sean Wright. No threat since then at all. In fact, he's gone basically radio silent.
He has.
And I don't think it's because he just over the case, David did it. No. I think it's because there's that other group. I hate to mention them. I really do. But there's that other group, and they've gone kind of radio silent on it too. But the thing is, well, you got to look at, who are those people connected to? You got Sean Wright. You got a few other people. I'm not going to mention just in case, but the big one, Sean Wright, and he's gone radio silent. These other guys with their weird connections they've gone radio silent. So I think there's something there, and I think they see that. So I think they're kind of just like trying to go and okay, what do we do? Trying to scramble to go and get out of those crosshairs. Good luck.
Yeah, because I find it awfully funny, and this is all public knowledge. I'm not doxing anybody, and I won't say names, but I will say that there are a few of those who have accused David and stabbed David in the back with what they've said since all of this has occurred, and accused him of being, causing, doing domestic violence, hurting his wife and all this other stuff. Well, it seems mighty funny that a few of these people have been arrested for domestic violence charges. David never, ever hurt his wife, ever. And yet now we have a few of these who have quite the record of domestic violence against somebody that they know. And I'm like, hello, ding, 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 a leopard doesn't change its spots. So.
Yeah, we have it twice for one person. Another person was doing it right in front of their children, and, just quite an extensive record, actually. It's just.
So here we have people who were involved with David's life and this project, the Gray State Project, who not only previously had these run-ins with the law, but then when the family was found dead, they had no problem saying that David, how horrible he was for what he did to his wife and his child and blah, 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 blah. But yet, since all of this, they both, or two or three of them, now they have even more arrests on their record for domestic violence within the realm of their family. And, you know, if you're looking in the way people are psychologically, if you're someone who's going to be abusing your family and you have anger issues, if you're not getting help, those traits don't go away. And so, you know, we have people who have these traits, who have a history of this behavior, calling and accusing a man who never had those traits or that history of behavior, calling him that. And now all of a sudden, like you were saying, William, it's radio silence on everybody's part. They're all kind of tuck tail and run at the moment.
So one thing I do want to bring up is, I don't know if you saw that in chat, what I just put up there. That's actually from Statista, as of October 14th this year. At least that's what the date is on it right here. But when it comes down to murder in the United States, apparently, when it comes to the relationship from victim to offender, it's generally family related or people they knew rather than strangers. So another thing that's kind of against them, because they're people that he knew. And it's obvious they're people they knew, because if this was a stranger, there would have been a struggle. There was no real big struggle, at least that was really in the home. It wasn't a very obvious struggle, I should say. From what I could see, that definitely looks like there was a little bit of a struggle, but it also kind of looks like it was tried to be cleaned up. And like I said, you go back to the statistics. More homicides in the U.S. are committed by people that knew the victim rather than just by strangers.
Unfortunately, I think that's what not only the police ran with on this, but you know, the Gray State guys use that as their excuse, and why even the news ran with it, because statistically it would say that David did this. And it's like, well, it's a statistic. It's not 100%. If you look at that crime scene, you walk in, you should automatically know, wait a minute, there's 3 people here with 4 gunshot wounds to the head. Where's the blood? You know? Okay, how did they get here? And they have an exit wound here, but and you don't have a bullet for 2 of them. And it's just, it doesn't make sense.
Well, and the funny thing is, it's also, speaking on that, there's also the bullet trajectory, which I know there's some people saying that they never really did any bullet trajectory. There was a little bit done. It wasn't really done as, you know, like what a typical bullet trajectory scene would look like with, you know, with string or with some kind of software. They didn't use a whole lot of that. However, if you were to go and try and line David's body up, even with a little bit of movement here and there, you know, he's, you know, not getting up and, you know, moving around like Thriller, you know, we know that. We know somebody thinks apparently they do, but when it comes down to it, you can go and adjust David's body all day. You're not going to line that bullet in the ceiling. You're not going to line that up with David at all. It's literally impossible.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Hey, Greg has finally joined us. Hi, Greg.
Hey, buddy.
Hey there. Can everybody hear me all right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Awesome. Broadcasting live from my mama's basement.
Okay, you want to jump in?
I just wanted to jump in here and thank everybody who has created a fake document for helping us keep this case going. Really appreciate it. If you want to create some more fake documents to add to the list, that would be okay too, because it's definitely helping us. It's working in our favor. So thank you all. Appreciate it.
And for those I'm sorry, for those who haven't, I see a Sandra Turner. I don't recall seeing Sandra in the chat before. So hello, Sandra. So I don't know if Sandra or anybody else has heard about the fake document. Greg, you want to kind of fill them in real quick about that?
Yeah, which one? I guess the one we're talking about.
Go for it.
There was a fake document created by some losers who created this fake document and acted like it was from one Apple Valley police detective to the other. I believe it was to Tommy from Shane kind of thing. So even though detectives rarely will talk about stuff like that or talk like that in a official police document or official police, any correspondence going back and forth. We have in one of the big PDFs, it's either the 488 PDF or the 484 PDF, 484 pages, whichever one it is. And there's a lot of back and forth, and you can see how these detectives talk to each other, how they talk to other people that are involved in this case. You can compare the way that they talk in those email exchanges. You can compare that to this fake document. It's very concerning that somebody would even create a fake document, but it does show how scared they really are of the truth getting out. And the letter that the Apple Valley City attorney sent made it really seem like they weren't going to give us anything more because of this fake document. Almost like, the fake document was going to make things worse, when really it has really helped us. I think that's what I think. So that's why it's a very very important aspect of this case. It's still kind of new, it's still fresh, and like you both said, the case may not be closed because of that document. They may have helped reopen the case in ways that none of us would have ever done because we're not shady people. So, so thanks again, much appreciated. And this wine is for you.
Oh,
thank you.
Will the real Slim Shady please stand up?
I want some wine.
And that's just one. Like I said, if there's any other fake documents out there, if people have created any other fake or doctored any photos that may have the gun in it or anything like that, or acting like there's information that is out there that we know isn't, which we've been hearing for years. Well, we know, we have the proof that David did it. We just can't share it with you guys. We've been dealing with that for almost 8 years now of that same thing, and no one has been able to produce any evidence that David Crowley is guilty. Nobody is withholding evidence from the police, I don't think, because there is no evidence that David Crowley is guilty. That's why somebody would have to fake these documents. They would have to doctor those documents. And if you go back and trace, according to Tony Floyd, where those documents or where that document came from, and where the image with the gun may have come from, whether the image with the gun is fake or not, to me doesn't, that's a whole nother issue. But if you trace it back and look who that person is, look who these people are, you can totally understand why they would have the motive to create a fake document, first of all. And I can totally understand why the Apple Valley Police and the Apple Valley City may be putting a big spotlight on them. And their best thing to do is to do what the Gray State goons did right after David died, was to go silent. And if they don't want to go silent, hey, it's fair warning, because doing something like that, creating a fake document, acting like it is coming from one police officer to the other, that's a serious crime. It's a serious crime, and they should know that there's it's not going to go unnoticed. It's not going unchallenged, and hopefully the Apple Valley will be able to get to the bottom of that source and any other sources that are similar to it.
Well, just one question on this. Does anybody actually, come to any conclusion as to what that person is going to gain from doing that? Like, why they would even want to go and have, to falsify and try to really push that David did it? I don't understand what the gain would be.
Probably multiple reasons, I would say, not just one. One of them would be to make themselves look good, as if they knew something that they really didn't. Mm-hmm. To make us look bad, as if we didn't know stuff, as if there was information that we were not getting that was out there. And those are two of the reasons that I can think. I can think of a lot more, but to me, those are the two that really stand out.
I'm talking like bigger picture here, though. Are they just thinking real small picture and just trying to go and defame a Facebook group and a few people, or are they thinking big picture, like actual like fame and money and all that?
I really don't think
make any sense.
Yeah, my view is, and I don't know how the ladies of justice feel here, but my view, Catherine, my view is they didn't think that it would go this far. I don't believe that they thought that the Apple Valley City attorney would get an actual affidavit from Detective Shane Klokanos, if I remember correct, right? It's not, yeah, from him, and saying that he did not write this. That's taking it pretty far there. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, that's how I see it. I mean, I definitely want to hear what Catherine and Sophie have to say on that as well. But you know, the whole thing about doing it, it's like it seems like the guy didn't, or the person, sorry, didn't think far enough ahead to realize this would happen. This would be eventual. It's not even, you know, this is going to happen.
And that's typical with that person. Yeah, and that's a trait of that person. It's not the first time they've done something like it. So
right.
Sophia, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that it probably was done out of a narcissism type complex, number one. Number two, they were probably thinking, like, oh, hey, I'm in touch with the police. I'm on a first name basis with the police. I could pick up the phone. I can get documents. See, look, I have this document. And, oh, but we can't share it in the public. Don't post it in the public eye. That kind of thing. Only share it, between those that who will keep it between us. This was a way to keep that tight little niche together.
And that's just one that we know about, right?
I know of a couple others that I sent off. So, yeah, at least a photo and another kind of document that they're trying to pass off as real. So those were all sent off at the same time.
Yeah, you think they would have learned by now with that?
Well, I'm pretty sure that they thought that they got away with the first one, and then they just created a few more things. And then once we came out with the whole, email from the city attorney and the affidavit, that's when this person went radio silent.
Smart move.
So, yeah, it was a smart move. So, yep.
I don't know. I personally can't wait until we get actual verification that they're like, okay, we've now opened it and we're going to look at this a little bit better. Although I know it's like in a roundabout way, and she kind of said it in her letter, but for my brain, I want to hear the words. I want, and
yeah.
Because as you know, anytime I've contacted any of them, I've only received one response out of the multiple times I've contacted any of them. They've always just ignored everything I've requested. So other short of going to court, if I was out there, I would just file court papers and, request the documents, but I can't show up to court because I don't live there. Short of doing that, it's like my hands are kind of tied, but I'm glad that they opened up to you, especially you and Sophia and Greg.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, everything just went really quiet. That's why I was asking.
Oh.
I was answering Deb in the chat room. It's 12 to 15 years if found guilty.
How long if they got caught for falsifying?
Because it's a federal offense and it's 12 to 15 years. So.
Well, I guess he'll really this person will really get to talk to some prisoners then.
True. Right?
Maybe that was the plan. Work their way into the jail system somehow.
It's just making some friends in low places.
Real mail order groom.
Oh man. So is there anything else you guys want to say on the Crowley case, or do you want to go ahead and move on to the Kylie case?
I'm really happy.
really, really excited about this book. That's pretty much it. I'm really looking forward to it.
Now, how many people are going to be contributing to the book? Are there 4 of us contributing?
There may be more. There may
Okay.
be more. So I'm
So
still.
as of now, there's like 4, maybe possibly more. And then you did say that William is going to be doing the cover artwork, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
So he's working on that while working on other things too, and yeah, hopefully we can make the deadline. But even if we don't, it'll still be out there. So.
Yeah, I hope so too. And if for those of you who don't know, that David, Kamel, and Rania were found on January 17th, 2015. So we're trying to get the book done and completed so it could be released on the anniversary of their bodies being found. So hopefully, knock on wood, we will get that done.
It should be. It only takes a couple weeks. Once it's done and once we send it off to be printed, it should only take a couple weeks. I mean, it'll be live then as of that day whenever we go live. But as far as the global distribution, that could take another week or so. So that's why I really want to try to get this done at least by the end of December, and then to have the final version sent off. Everybody gets a proof copy, and yeah, as long as there's nothing else there, and should be good. And working on the different orders. I'm working on my chapters now. I looked at one chapter I have, and it's about 40 pages, but I'm going to break it up because it's really several different smaller chapters. I feel like the way that my chapters are going to be almost like little blog posts and stuff. So, and if anybody has any quotes, if anybody has any powerful David Crowley quotes that may stand out, we definitely would like to try to collect some of those so we can add that in. Russell, I think this will be a hard copy. I think we're going to skip the paperback. We're going to go directly to a hard copy with this one.
Hardback, not paperback?
Correct. Yep.
Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah, that'll be nice. That's nice.
Yeah. This the place where we're going to do the self-publishing.
Mm-hmm.
But the hardcovers look really nice. The way that they make the hardcovers look really nice. And they keep changing things. They keep changing a lot of different things. So this company used to be a lot better, and I don't know what's going on with budget cuts or what it is, but they keep just making it a little more difficult, a little more issues. There's more issues with it, but nothing that we can't figure out. So.
And as far as the David Crowley case goes, if anyone is new here, please watch my videos. There's a whole bunch there. And then you saw Greg Fernandez Jr., who was on here earlier. He has also a YouTube channel called The Gray Stage. And then also he has the Greg Fernandez Jr. Look him up. He does some fantastic videos. And we really, David Crowley was a war veteran. He was a young man with a dream. He was a writer. He was a composer. He had written a movie called The Gray State, which he had just made a deal with some producers in Hollywood. They were going to make it a series, I believe, on either TV or HBO. And then he and his family end up dead in the house, and he was blamed. It was called a double murder-suicide. But the house is completely missing his blood, his daughter's blood, and only his wife's blood is there. There's no bullet. The bullet that killed David and Rania are missing. There's access on the computer after they were dead. There's a whole bunch to this case. So we would love any help or get you, even if you're watching the videos, it's helping because it helps to show those the police are watching our videos and watching what we do. So when they see that, more people are paying attention, I think we can move this case along a little bit faster. We're trying to get them to reopen it, which Sophia had written a letter and had received a letter back from the city attorney of Apple Valley, Minnesota. And the writing on that leads you to believe that the case has been reopened. So
The first letter, not so much. The second letter, yes, especially with the statutes that they used. So anyway, okay, you were on a roll. Sorry, go ahead.
oh no, that's okay. I was just reading what was war said. Time to baptize Satan. Oh my gosh. Hey, we love you too, Derek, and I'm so glad to see you back. But please go back and watch our videos, especially the latest ones. The inconsistencies. I have done a video where I've compiled even more. It's over 60 now inconsistencies. Things like a blanket underneath Kamel, but on top of David. Kamel's head being covered, her arm being covered, an arm underneath her, but yet she's missing her face and both hands. So things like this. You'll find this case really, really interesting. But thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, William, for joining us.
Of
It
course.
was great to have you. And thank you, Sophia. And again, I've been yakking. So you guys want to say anything before we close?
Just want to thank everybody in the chat and all of those who were in the chat and then had to leave early. Hopefully you'll come back and you'll get to finish this off. And don't forget to click the like button if you've enjoyed our conversation tonight.
And subscribe.
And subscribe, please. So, and thank you, because the chat really did make this a great conversation.
It did, man. They were on fire. Thank you guys so much.
Here we go. Shadows and light. I have lived in darkness. I have lived in the shadows. Now I live in the light of Jesus Christ. He is the light. We can be shadows of that light, or shadows running from the light. We have free will. Do we run to Jesus, run to the light? Or do we run from Jesus and run into the shadows? Do we shine, or do we hide? Many people do not have a relationship with Jesus Christ. But it is never too late. We are forever reminded of the thief on the cross. The story is simple. The options are two. The choice is yours to make. At any time in your life, you can believe in Jesus Christ and build a relationship with Him. The thief, at the very end of his life, as he was crucified next to Jesus Christ, believed and was saved. The same thief, while others mocked Jesus, asked for forgiveness and recognized Christ was the Son of God. The thief recognized his own punishment as just, and also knew Jesus did not deserve what was about to happen to him. A second thief who was crucified next to Jesus said, "If you are the Christ, save yourself and us." The first thief, the one who believed in Jesus, replied, "Do you not even fear God, seeing you are under the same condemnation? And we indeed justly, for we receive the due reward of our deeds. But this man has done nothing wrong." Then the thief who believed in Christ turned to Jesus and asked, Lord, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus answered, Assuredly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise. Luke chapter 23, verses 39 to 43. Wouldn't you like to know more about the thief who believed in Jesus and why he said what he said? Disbelievers will always find an excuse to not believe in the Bible. The various translations of the word are a common excuse used by many people who just do not want to believe in the Bible. But let's think about this. Various translations can be used by the devil to confuse people and turn them away from Jesus Christ. That is the devil's goal. The devil tempts us with such doubts on purpose and as planned. Yet the light still shines through the doubt as planned. The translations and our views on the translations are all part of the plan. This is the test which brings us the same choice as the two thieves crucified next to Jesus. One chose to believe, the other did not. In the end, the choice is yours. You can believe in Jesus Christ and accept the free gift of salvation, or you can choose not to. You can live in the light. You can live in the darkness or remain in the shadows. The choice is always yours. So are the consequences and blessings of your decision. With Jesus Christ, you are truly alive. Without Jesus Christ, you are truly dead.